All right, finish your current thought and then rotate to your final group. So around the room, next to the posters you've just been writing on, there's a poster written in blue that has a red line somewhere on it. That's just so you know which ones I'm talking about. So there are 4 of them in the room. These are the definitions that we came up with as we synthesized the definitions that you guys worked on at your tables earlier today. So these are the 4 patterns that we saw across definitions. Of these 4, which definition do you think that we should go with? So this one's 1, that one's 2, that one's 3, and that one's 4. You gonna tally for us? Wonderful. All right, raise your hand if number 1 is your favorite. Oh, interesting. Moving right along. Raise your hand if number 2 was your favorite. You can only vote once. Hold them up high. Yes. I got 14. Did you get 14? Okay. Number 3. 3, 4. Perfect. 4 over here. All right, Alyssa, way to be brave and stick with your beliefs. Yeah. I'd call it 1.5. We have a torn soul. Okay, so we were looking for majority. I should have said that on the front end. And it looks like we have majority. But I will open the floor to talk about any nuances that you would like to talk about before we stamp it. So go ahead, tell us what you're thinking, Sarah.
One of the things that I like is the word play. At our table this morning, that was something that we discussed too, because the sort of initial definition was kind of about skills for reading and writing, and then the further part talked about some of the qualities that, the oral language and things, but like so much of what kids do is about playing, and there are all these ways that they're learning by listening and being around words and playing, and that's kind of how they're learning. And so part of what I like about that one is that, and then the access to resources. While it doesn't really have to mean money, it may be just someone's time, like the resource of someone being there and talking to you and whatever. And so I think that that one hits a couple of the things that seemed important, like for what my group discussed this morning.
One of the things that kind of had me leaning towards 3, it was less about what was just there and more about the fact that it wasn't pigeonholing reading to books. The other definitions all have a love of books. And if we're not careful, a lot of people, just in general, are going to think books and think only books. But really and truly, what we've definitely learned over the past couple of days is that reading is reading is reading. And so that was one that was a little concerning for me. And then also thinking about, I love having the play involved. I like that there's independent learning and motivated reading. And then another thing that I don't know that any of them really have, and maybe it's just because I'm looking for a very specific word, but it's comprehension. Because, I mean, you can read something and you might know a word, but do you know what it means in the context of what you're reading? Because that can make the difference between reading a book and enjoying a book. So that's something that came to mind for me.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So I think it's also important in the definition, because we're saying that part of literacy is writing, that we include those pre-writing behaviors, the fine motor skills, and gross motor skills, holding your tongue, so that we've got that physical aspect included in the definition, so that when we're playing with Play-Doh with children, it's more recognizable we're working on a skill. Yep, exactly.
Spoken like a true early educator. Thank you, Katie. Who else?
Earlier, my table did too, so I'm also a little biased. But we didn't really, this is just background where we got here. We did not change what the RAC wrote, but we wanted to add a sentence. What we thought was missing was the how and the who is involved. So like, we liked that the first sentence talks about kind of what early literacy is, like the knowledge, the skills, blah, blah, blah. And the second sentence was about the what. And then the last part is kind of about the who and the how. That was kind of the background.
Okay, so two things. One, in the second one, I'm curious, respectful relationship. If there's anyone in here that was like in that discussion, just to know more about what that means. Second thing is consistent exposure. I think one other side of this is when of print, to kind of include what you said, instead of love of books. Part of that is kids seeing themselves in books. And so I think it'd be helpful to have something in that piece that is like representative exposure. A better word, but you get what I'm saying. So, yeah.
Other thoughts?
I mean, they're kind of listed over there, but one thing that I think could make that one better is the prenatal focus. Because again, like, the reading, the talking to baby thing. And another thing that my group had discussed, so it says, phonological awareness, which for this room might be like a head nodder, but if you're passing this out to caregivers, it might be more of a head scratcher. And so maybe adding some brief explanation there so that it's available, like the understanding is available to a wider audience.
Okay, I got the privilege of reading all 20 of these. So, couple of things. One, it's going to have to be a combination of everything, right? And I know a lot of people make it simple. So it's interesting because the simple language is over here, but this is where you guys still went. And so it's just going to have to be a combination of all of that. So that one did include, I think I can't read that far away, but it included sounds, letters, like just a little bit more simplistic than the word phonological awareness. Almost everybody wanted it prenatal. So that was consensus.
Does everybody? Yeah, that was one of the.
Yeah, that was a must of almost all of them. And then, there was a third point I was going to make, but I forgot what it was. After looking at all 20 of them, there was a third point based on what you guys were just saying. And I can't remember what it was, so.
I've got a curveball to throw. So I wonder if this last sentence is needed, right? Does this sentence actually define the term? Because if this term were food, this sentence would be, you could use food to paint. You could use food to eat. It would nourish your body. It doesn't actually define what the term food is. This doesn't actually define what early literacy is. So when we think about simplistic and readable, I'm wondering if this sentence is unnecessary. Hands are going up. Here we go. Also, I need to be mindful of time. But
So the thing about all of literacy, I don't think we need to limit it to just the categories. And we do need to consider it is everywhere, to piggyback on what Michelle said. But the end goal needs to be reminded that it is to create independent learners and motivated readers. That's what stood out to me about number 3, because I can know how to read. I can understand what I'm reading. But if I'm not motivated to pick up a book on my own and read it, then why even go through the process? The whole point is to create a lifelong love of reading so that when you don't have to, you choose to. And I think where it says independent learners and motivated readers, that those 2 specific targets are the end game. And I think that needs to be highlighted. Because for an outside person reading what early literacy is, all the educators know what all that takes. And I think we get lost in the jargon of it. And I think to simplify it and say, hey, it's all those building blocks. It's every piece of everything to make an independent learner and motivated reader.
So I can pass this over here, and while I'm passing it, I can say the thing I was going to say. I was just going to say to what Heather was talking about the simplicity. That's what led me more towards 3, was because as I'm reading those, I'm like, too long. Nope, too long. And so I do agree that I do think it needs to be simple. And also to what you were saying, Katie, that last sentence, I think if we did that, then maybe 2 would be the way to go.
I'm kind of going to say a lot of the same. I agree 100%. The only thing I want to add is that when this is for a variety of people at different levels of understanding what early literacy is, if I'm a parent and I'm not confident in my understanding of that, and I think independent learner and motivated reader, yes, I want that for my child. And I think anyone who works with young children can look at that and say, yes, I want that, even if some of the language above might not be fully clear. And that's what I think you probably want people walking away from the definition going, yeah, I want that for my child.
I remember what I was going to say. One of the questions was, if this laundry list of things is going to be included, are all of those things going to be defined in the glossary? And the answer to that question was yes. That all phonological awareness, comprehension, all of that is going in the glossary. It may be not needed to answer that question now, but they'll be there.
Piggybacking on all of the independent learners and motivated readers things, in my opinion, I think it feels fair to add it to the end of that and say that early literacy is not a requirement, but it's necessary to create independent, instead of just saying it leads to this or it leads to that. And it feels more like a definition if you add a different word there, because you're not going to have independent learners and motivated readers if they didn't start with early literacy. So I think that feels more defining when you add a phrase like that.
Just swapping that last sentence for a sentence like that.
Mm-hmm.
With the word necessary.
Necessary.
Okay. Let's take a stab at it really fast. All right, Molly. Give me a second.
Oh, sorry, I'm just sitting in the middle. I would say something like early literacy is a necessary
Development.
Yeah.
Necessary development of.
Is a necessary step in developing independent learners and motivated readers. Love it.
Just maybe is necessary. It's not a necessary step. It's just
necessary.
Yeah. The way you said it at first was good. Yeah.
I think instead of adding it on the back end, we could say at the beginning of the definition, early literacy is the development of the necessary skills to do these things.
Yeah. And then I just would build on that.
It's like we all have the words, we just needed them to be something together in the right
Collaboration.
Okay. I don't need to. I was just going to advocate for the laundry list. I think that if we are offering a definition, I love a pithy explanation, but if I don't know what early literacy is, and then I say, okay, early literacy leads to reading and writing skill. Okay, what what are the foundational things that lead to that? And so I think it would be helpful to have a long list, especially if it is digital and you're just linking to the other definitions. There's no harm in an exhaustive list, maybe just at the end. So that like the key simple information is the beginning of the definition, and then like specific skills include blah, blah, blah. And you know, maybe this is more like an encyclopedia and less like a dictionary, but I don't see harm in including how the skills are acquired. I would argue it's a little different than like how food is used, because you'd be like food comes from things, you know, like if you're saying the source of something, I think there is some value in that, but it depends how long of an explanation you want.
So check in here. Am I hearing you say 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, so maybe like starting broad and then drilling down could be helpful.
Okay. How do people feel about that? Yeah.
So part of what our group discussed earlier was that, like, kind of leading with the reading and writing, especially if part of the audience is caregivers, is like, okay, but I have a baby. They're not going to read or write. Like, so early literacy maybe is going to really start later for them, because they're not going to be learning skills from me about how to read or write when they're 6 months old or something like that. And so and again, it gets at some of that with oral language, but finding ways, and especially if we say prenatal, but again, kind of like Margaret was saying, to sort of some of what that might mean, especially at the earlier age groups, to make this, again, like an audience like this is going to be like, sure, these are all the things that you have to do to help kids read and support them in their journey. But it may not be the common knowledge that everyone has, and they need that to support them to read to their kids more often, or talk to them more, and do all the kinds of things that we might acknowledge are important.
Yep, totally. Here's my push to that. We're working on creating a glossary. That sounds to me like a resource. And so I'm wondering if that's beyond the scope of what we're trying to create right now. I totally agree with you, and I think everyone in this room agrees with you that those things are needed. But when we're thinking about simple, quick, and clear, I'm wondering if that's beyond the scope of what we're trying to create right now. Core literacy, common language, early childhood, collaborative networks, state agencies and initiatives, assessment and intervention, professional development, support systems, out of school time, and social and community factors. Again, this list is not exhaustive. These are the terms that have been workshopped thus far with the RAC. So here is what I'm thinking. I do have a marker. Okay, so I think this is a group, 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 this is a group. So let's see, how many? 4? There are 20 something of us in here. Okay. So I don't know that we can get through all 6 though. And so I feel like we need to get these first ones first. So let's do, this is gonna be core literacy 1, are the first 6 definitions in the glossary. Core literacy 2 is gonna be the next 6 definitions in the glossary. This group is going to be number 3, and it is common language and early childhood. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, but a lot of these are like defined TEIS, and we feel like we've got a good spot on that. You just need to check it off. Group 4 is collaborative networks and advocacy groups and state agencies and initiatives. Again, these are very much defining acronyms and just checking off that we've got it. Next one is assessment and intervention, and then professional development and support systems, and then finally we have out of school time and social and community factors. So we'll do table 1, table 2, table 3, table 4, table 5, table 6. And so you may choose which group you would like to go to. Okay, I'll give you a second to think about those before I tell you what the instructions are. Yeah, the tables are the groups. Okay. So here are your instructions. So first you're going to find your group, and on each table there are working packets, and then there's a packet that has a worksheet on the front. This is going to be your final product that gets turned into us. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to write your names and which group number you are on the front of that packet. And then you're going to find your terms based on this, and you're going to discuss them. And you're going to try to create a final definition for as many terms in your category as you can. So that packet is what you're going to turn in, and you're going to code them. We don't want you to, if you like it, check it off, let's move on. You don't have to rewrite it, okay? So you're going to code them with the markers on your tables, and I know those kind of got shifted, so we can bring some more around. If you read it and it's good to go, highlight it blue and move on. If you read it and there's a small edit to make that you can make within the text, highlight it yellow and scratch whatever you want to scratch, add whatever you want to add. And if you would like to rewrite the definition, then highlight it red and rewrite it on this front cover sheet where it says term and new definition. Okay? Any questions? Yes. Thank you.
I wanted to explain what's here. Okay, so what's here thus far has come from Regional Advisory Council members, 2 or 3 passes from that. So let's say somebody put in there 10 ELDs. The definition is in there, and say when it went before Regional Advisory Council, somebody had a suggestion for it. That suggestion has already been made and noted. So Scarborough's Rope, for example, just take the first one. That's not the first one. Science of Reading is the first one, and that one's hard, so skip that one. Scarborough's Rope, it says needs work, okay? So there's a definition, and there's something that says new definition, and that means it's already been revised once. If there's one that says, gosh, all in the beginning are hard. They all need work. That means that Katie or ChatGPT or Johnny or somebody on Regional Advisory Council has made the new definition. So does that help clarify just a little bit of what's already here? Okay.
So like we said earlier, this is a living, breathing document, and our goal today wasn't to come away with a finished product. It was to take our first pass. Yeah, gonna keep feeding it, and Lord, we hadn't even started talking about the terms that are missing and where we need to go next. So there's still so much work to do on this, and I encourage you to lean into select convenings and activities to be part of this as we move it forward, because it's gonna be really, really valuable. Okay, so if you didn't hear me before, draw a line under where you stopped so that whenever we're putting things together, we will know what's left. And before we wrap, we are going to go back to our definitions of early literacy. First off, thank y'all. That was great. So many wonderful conversations. And how many did we highlight blue? Did we get some blue highlights? Yeah? Okay. Okay, cool. So we put something in ink. That's awesome. So now we're going to go back to our definitions of early literacy, and we are going to vote once more and only once more, and we are looking for majority. So what can you settle with today? What is good enough for you today? We're not shooting for perfection. We are looking for what's our starting point, right? So I'm going to read them aloud so that everyone can remember what we have. Number 1 says early literacy refers to the foundational skills, knowledge, and behaviors that support reading and writing development in children prenatal to 8. It includes developing abilities like oral language, sounds, letters, visual language, and print awareness, vocabulary, and love of books and storytelling. Number 2 says, where do I want to start? Early literacy refers to the foundational skills, knowledge, and attitudes to support reading and writing development in young children prenatal to age 8. It includes abilities like oral language, phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, print awareness, vocab, and love of books and storytelling. These skills are acquired through play, respectful relationships, consistent exposure, practice, and access to resources. Early literacy is necessary. Early literacy is development of necessary skills to create independent learners and motivated readers. Number 3 says early literacy refers to the foundational skills, knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors that support reading and writing development in young children, prenatal to age 8. Early literacy leads to independent learners and motivated readers. And finally, number 4 says early literacy cultivates independent learners through the development of foundational skills, knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors that support reading and writing in young children prenatal to age 8. It is supported by muscle development, respectful relationships, and access to resources and play. So, raise your hand if number 1 is your favorite. Ooh, okay. Raise your hand if number 2 is your favorite. 2, 3, 4, 5. Do we want the sentence out or in? Out? Okay, I'll read it again without it. Early literacy refers to the foundational skills, knowledge, and attitudes to support reading and writing development in young children prenatal to 8. It includes abilities like oral language, phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, print awareness, vocab, love of books, and storytelling. Early literacy is necessary in the development of independent learners and motivated readers. Number 2. Raise them high. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. Number 3, which is the one over there. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And number 4. Okay, well, number 2 is the winner. Look at that. Way to go, guys. Yay. We have a definition of early literacy. Okay, well, yes.
Was there talk of putting that bottom sentence like up at the top?
Sure.
There was a lot of pulling conversation now.
And we're still going to list all of the components or put that part in the glossary?
I think that's part of the glossary, because like phonological...
So you would take out all the wordy part of each individual piece of it?
Yeah, I think what we talked about was taking out that these skills are acquired through play, blah, 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 but leaving it includes abilities like oral language, phonological awareness. The early literacy is necessary. I like that. Yep. Do y'all feel okay with that? Perfect. Yep. Early literacy refers to the foundational skills, knowledge, and attitudes to support reading and writing development in young children prenatal to 8. Early literacy development is necessary. Wait. Early literacy. Early literacy is, okay, I'm starting again. Early literacy refers to the foundational skills, knowledge, and attitudes to support reading and writing development in young children prenatal to 8. Early literacy is necessary to develop independent learners and motivated readers. It includes abilities like oral language, phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, print awareness, vocab, love of books, and storytelling. Everybody good? Woohoo! We did it. Thank you, guys.